I'm happiest in the saddle.
A fellow sportsman.
I am an FBI agent!
Great Scott!
What do you say we cut the chit-chat? A-hole!
Dogs and cats living together. Mass hysteria.
Come with me if you want to live.
Hello, and welcome to Retro Ramble. I'm Charlie McGee.
I'm George McGee.
And this time we are going back to 1994 to take a look back at the action classic that is Speed, starring Keanu Reeves, Dennis Hopper, Sandra Bullock, Jeff Daniels. I always get that mistake. So George, what can people expect from this episode?
Lots of dramatic tension.
Yes, a Michael Bay, Holland's answer to Michael Bay, Jan de Bont. Can't wait to hear about him. What's he done for us lately? All of that sort of jazz.
Yeah.
We're going to be, as per usual, we're going to dive into a bit of production chat. What made this film possible? I don't know how long that's going to be, but kind of what was going on in the industry, how this film came to be. Obviously, we will talk about later on in the episode in our feature Coulda, Woulda, Shoulda. We'll look at the other actors who are considered. We've got some other features that we do. But essentially, we look at the good and bad, we remember this film, and we've watched it again recently, and the idea is to inspire you to go back and check it out again if you haven't recently. So before we go any further, a quick word from George on some general housekeeping, just what to expect to manage your expectations of a typical Retro Ramble episode.
Yes, so just a quick disclaimer, we are film lovers, not film professionals, so we aim to entertain, but also give you guys a bit of trivia. There's some facts you may have not known about these films.
George does have qualifications in film.
I do have a degree in film media.
And has worked on film, so there you go. But we both work in media, we love films, a lot of history, but you need to be warned.
Yes, yeah, we are going to go into these films in detail. That means there will be spoilers throughout. We're two grown-up guys, so we're going to use some mature language.
Speak for yourself, buddy.
And there's also, because we're two immature guys, there's probably going to be some bad impressions as well.
Yeah, just one or two. But these films they're like an old friend. We reminisce, we take the piss. Don't be offended if you think we do love these films. That's why we're covering them. So any fun that we poke at them comes with the greatest amount of respect. And I don't know what else is there to say, George. We haven't, we've got to keep our conversation at a certain speed, otherwise this podcast will explode.
I think let's just get into it.
Yeah, so Speed, 1994. Enjoy the show.
All right, gentlemen, what we have here are 13 passengers in an express elevator. Bomb's already taken out cables. Bomber wants $3 million or he blows the emergency brakes.
He can strike anywhere, at any time.
Why are they messing with me? Do they think I'm doing this for fun?
For LA cop Jack Traven, the game began when someone put the city of Los Angeles to the ultimate test.
Pop quiz, hotshot. There's a bomb on the bus. Once the bus goes 50 miles an hour, the bomb is armed. If it drops below 50, it blows up. What do you do? What do you do?
Now, he's the only solution.
We just got a ransom demand from your terrorist. Says he's rigged the city bus. Where's Jack?
Where do you think?
Hey, Honor, get off!
Get off.
Is much better.
Keanu Reeves, Dennis Hopper, Sandra Bullock.
Pop quiz. You have a hair trigger aimed at your head. What do you do? What do you do?
Speed. Get ready for rush hour.
So George, Speed from Jan de Bont. I'm sorry, I watched this film and I was like, this is like a Michael Bay film. So how did we get this film?
How the hell did we get here? So it actually starts with the screenwriter, Graham Yost. So this was sort of a case of the 90s and the early 90s of these scripts that catch everyone's imagination and sort of do the rounds. So, but there's actually quite a few connections to some previous episodes that we've done. So Graham Yost was inspired by a film called Runaway Train, which is about a runaway train.
Right. So it's not just a clever title.
No, but that was directed by a guy called Andrei Konchalovsky.
I recognise that
who
name.
directed a little gem of a film called Tango and Cash, or at least he directed some of Tango and Cash.
Yeah.
But enough about that film. Check out our other Tango and Cash podcast.
Hey, Stallone fans.
So Yost decided it would have been better if there'd been a bomb on board the train. So he decided he was inspired to write a story about a bus that couldn't stop, but it had a bomb on it, and it was forced to travel at 20 miles an hour to prevent an actual explosion. But then when he was telling a friend about it, a friend was like, that's a terrible idea, increase it to 50 miles an hour.
Yeah, I could just see some producer going, that doesn't really sound like much of a threat.
Needs to be faster.
Okay, 30 miles an hour.
And Yost had initially named the film, as a result, Minimum Speed, but then quickly realised that minimum would add negative connotations, so simply renamed it to Speed, the film we all know and love, not the bus that couldn't slow down.
No, which is a more apt title.
So he finished the script, I think he took it to Paramount Pictures first. They said, we really like this. It seems like, it's like a new Die Hard. Who can we get to direct? I know, John McTiernan. John McTiernan was like, pass. It seems a bit familiar to Die Hard. Rennie Harlin and, interestingly, Quentin Tarantino were offered the chance to direct, but both turned it down, though Tarantino later named it as one of his favourite films of that sort of time.
That era. Yeah.
Of that era. But it was McTiernan, actually, whilst he declined, he suggested Jan de Bont, who was his director of photography for Die Hard and Hunt for Red October.
So that's where he comes from.
And that's why this film feels very Die Hard-esque.
Yeah. But what else has he done? Jan de Bont.
Jan de Bont, so this was his directorial debut, but he went on, he did Twister, and he did one of the Tomb Raider films. He hasn't done a huge amount, I think, really. I think this is his big hit.
This is what he's known for. Fair enough.
And initially, the studio's choice, so it ended up, I think it started at Paramount, but then I think Paramount said, we're not too sure about it, so he ended up taking it to Fox, and Fox suggested the choice of composer was Michael Kamen, who did the soundtracks for Die Hard, License to Kill, Roadhouse, and many others.
Okay, so there's a bit of Spanish guitar going on.
Yeah, but Jan de Bont wanted Mark Mancina, who ended up doing, I think we said it's quite an iconic score.
Yeah.
And it's a great score, it really adds to the tension.
Yeah, release tense chase music.
So interestingly, just before principal photography began, Jan de Bont brought in a guy called Joss Whedon to spice up the script.
Interesting.
And according to Yost, he's been very honest about this. He said Joss Whedon wrote about 98% of the dialogue. We were very much in sync. It's just I didn't write the dialogue as well as he did. So whilst Yost is the only credited screenwriter, he is quite happy to say,
give credit where it's due. Yeah.
But obviously the story's his. So now we get to casting.
We'll cover obviously other actors that were considered for the roles in our feature of Coulda, Woulda, Shoulda later on.
Originally, Keanu Reeves turned down the script because he felt it was too similar to Die Hard.
But Keanu, you weren't in Die Hard. Shut up, man.
I don't think I'm a John McClane type.
Yeah.
And it wasn't until Joss Whedon was brought on to rework the script, and he actually had Keanu Reeves' input to work on the dialogue to make him, he went from being a maverick hotshot to the polite guy trying to not get anyone killed, and made him more less one-linery and more of a sort of a believable person, trying to do the right thing. So that's quite interesting. Jan de Bont insisted Keanu Reeves got a sensible haircut, so if you think this around the same time as Point Break, so he would have had his lovely, beautiful, long flowing locks.
So you need to look like a SWAT guy.
So he shaved off all of his hair, like proper, like buzz cut, shorter than you see in the film, and the studio were horrified. Like, he's a heartthrob, what have you done?
It's beautiful hair.
And they actually threatened to postpone the film to allow Reeves to grow his hair back, but I think he managed to persuade them.
Look, I'm still hot. And they're like, yeah, okay, you are.
Well, de Bont cast Reeves because in his words, he felt the actor was vulnerable on screen. He's not threatening to men because he's not that bulky, and he looks great to women.
Right, okay.
And
I'd say he's quite bulky, he's quite tall. If you've not watched Point Break, you know, he's a big guy.
Well, yeah, apparently he did a fair bit of working out prior to this, like bulking up. And he also did, interestingly, he did around 90% of his own stunts.
No, I can believe that. I mean, obviously seeing what he's still able to do in John Wick, that does not surprise me.
Well, and you and I have, you know, it's one of our games we like to play, trying to spot the obvious stuntman.
Yeah.
And there's very little of this. I don't think, you know, it's obviously it's very well edited, but as you say, he's in a lot of those shots.
There's some far away, I think, shots of when he's driving the Jag, but there's also loads of shots with stunt drivers where he is clearly driving, at high speed. So,
and obviously we touched on this in our Demolition Man episode, but this stars Sandra Bullock. This was, you know, whilst Demolition Man was her first big Hollywood role, I would say this is her breakout role.
Yeah, this is what she's known for.
But though it's no surprise that, and again we'll get on in Coulda Woulda Shoulda, there was lots of other actresses considered for the role. But whilst filming, I don't know if I mentioned this in the Demolition Man episode, but Rob Schneider and Sandra Bullock became good friends, and she was telling him about the script. She was like, "Oh, that bus movie's not going to be that's going to be a terrible idea. You shouldn't do that."
And what did she learn from that? Don't listen to Rob Schneider.
You shouldn't listen to your friend Rob Schneider. He's an idiot.
A lovable one.
A lovable one. So actually, interestingly, Jan de Bont came up with the opening sequence idea. So Jost's original script was all set on the bus. And
right.
Paramount's feedback was, it's too much of it's on a bus.
Yeah.
This bus movie, there's too much bus.
Yeah.
So
it's too confined. We need to establish things.
So the start and ending, so the elevator sequence and the subway sequence were added on when Jan de Bont came on board. Mm-hmm. So Jan de Bont came up with the elevator sequence whilst he was working on Die Hard, because obviously that features lots of elevators.
Screwdrivers holding elevator doors open.
Yeah,
that's a little nod.
And there was, when they were filming Die Hard, he actually got stuck on top of one of the lifts and had to climb out the lift and into another one.
Wow.
So he got inspired by that. And they wrote around the whole sequence around that. So apparently for that opening scene, the elevator shaft was a fully functioning 4 elevators and 5 stories high, so that's quite an impressive set.
Yeah, and also it's this is obviously pre 9/11, so you know it's like playing a homegrown bomber. I don't think you would have made that film anywhere around after 2001.
Well, that's it. I think there's an interesting line when Sandra Bullock says, "Why is this guy doing this? Did we bomb his country or something like that?" Which is a very interesting line. As you
shows
say,
you where things were back then. And obviously I think we talked about this in our True Romance episode. Even though he was a massively established director, when we watched Speed, this was one of our first introductions to Dennis Hopper.
Yeah, and he was having a bit, he was getting a lot of work around the sort of mid-90s. He was your sort of almost your go-to bad guy.
And what a bad guy. I mean, watching this film again, I just felt like he was, obviously with his severed thumb, like what a Bond villain he would make. Like the attitude, his motivations.
He's menacing, but he's also very funny.
Yeah.
But interestingly,
better than a lot of Bond villains.
The original script actually had the Jeff Daniels role as he was going to. The twist was that Harry was going to be the mad bomber all along. So
using a voice thing on the phone. Maybe.
Yeah. And originally, this is a free Coulda Woulda Shoulda. They considered Ed Harris to play the role of Harry, which is which is a lot more believable because Harris can do good, he can do bad as well. Sinister. Yeah. But when Jeff Daniels signed on, they're like, this guy can't be a bad guy.
He's so nice.
Harry Dunn.
Yeah.
This is around the same time he's doing Dumb and Dumber.
Yeah.
So yeah, they decided to separate off into a different character, and Graham Yost said, I wasn't counting on the brilliance of casting Dennis Hopper. He just brought so much to it. You didn't need a backstory. It's all him. It just works.
Yeah, you can imagine there's probably quite a lot ad-libbed, but it works brilliantly. And yeah, he has such a presence.
So like our previous episode we were chatting about in Aliens, you know, the crew getting, the Marines getting military training.
Yes, I'm guessing they must have spent some time with SWAT.
Yep, so both Keanu Reeves and Jeff Daniels trained with real SWAT for that opening sequence. And yeah, the opening sequence it's like the rest of this film. It's a masterclass in tension.
And turned up to 11. Yeah, it's I love the fact that your first encounter with Harry and Jack is just their police car launching over the...
Shows how they're maverick renegades.
Yeah, and then they suit up very quickly, and then it's like, the SWAT guys don't do that anymore. That was just in the 80s films.
Maybe it's just an 80s thing.
Yeah.
Maybe it's just a Blues Brothers thing. But being the... Well, it's not really... we talk about our love of corporate yuppies, but that's how this film opens. It's Save the Yuppies.
Yeah, it is. Save the poor yuppies, and a lot of character actors, especially the guy, Bob. Which button did you press?
Yeah.
He's been in a lot, and I think even recently I recognised that
the guy with the thick eyebrows.
Yeah.
Yeah. Well, that's it. I mean, that's very much... You know, you see some of that dialogue, you're like, that's Joss Whedon. It's very quippy, isn't it?
Yeah, and it's very Joss Whedon in that we build the tension, and then here's a one-liner to relieve some tension so we can build it again.
Also, this is going to be a bit of a buzzword throughout the episode. Lots of talk of access panels.
This is an express elevator, gentlemen. The only way in or out is through access panels.
The nearest access panel's on the 32nd floor in the lobby.
I can't get under the bus right now, Harry. It's kind of in motion. Hold on.
Yes. Access panel. In the floor. Underneath you.
Maybe some bad impressions of a certain person referring to where one is. Yeah, but they get into the lift shaft through access panels. Yeah,
but who's telling them about this? It's Miles Dyson,
Joe Moore.
Sorry, but he's brilliant in this. I really like him. He's in it a lot as well. He's in it a lot. He's confident. He's quippy. It's not the sort of angry captain. He trusts Jack Traven, and why wouldn't you?
And a lot of the things he's saying, he is the economic exposition, and it's delivered like you can tell he spent some time with SWAT because it's all about the priorities. It's like, we've got to get those people out of here. The bomber's not here. We don't know this. It's all very. It's like reminding you, and Reeves is reacting to it, and you can tell that there's a very strong bond between. He's looking out for his team, and that them as a unit are very tight. Even the guy with the weird accent and the mustache. I'm going to drop a clip in of that guy's accent going all Irish or Scottish at some point.
All over the place. And our first appearance from Dennis Hopper, the great line,
"Don't fuck with Daddy."
He's having a lot of fun on this film.
Yeah, I mean, I don't know, even though it's, completely ridiculous, I think that opening scene makes me still slightly nervous of getting stuck in a lift.
It's very tense. Yeah. It's
because getting stuck in a lift is one thing, but getting stuck in a lift that might suddenly drop.
Well, it's the fact that he's blown, the emergency brakes are in. It's very clever, It shows, obviously, Jan de Bont's knowledge of the inner workings and mechanisms of an elevator.
Obviously at Fox Towers.
Yeah, so for any of our American listeners, we keep talking about lifts. We are referring to elevators. But yeah, and it's, for me, it's so tense when, they're getting all of the guys out and it's just dropping, and it starts off that it's too high and then it's too low, and then you've got
the woman who's refusing to leave.
The woman who just freezes, and, you see that's very much revealing of Keanu Reeves, Jack Traven, I'm not sure. Traven. Yeah, so revealing his type of character and the risks he will do and his problem-solving capabilities. So,
whilst chewing gum.
Yeah, chewing gum, looking like a typical SWAT guy. Yeah. We're introduced to Pop Quiz Hotshot.
Yes.
So yeah, I mean, we haven't touched on it, but what are your first memories of this film? Because it was about, I remember our sister and a mate of mine went to see It's Brided, and then did the typical thing that we did back then, was told us everything that happened without kind of ruining it, and it was all about, the stakes just keep on getting raised, and we didn't even know the words to explain why it was just so tense.
Well, my memories of this, I was desperate to see this at the cinema, and obviously it was a 15 and I was 11 at that time, and you know that time you're at that age where you're pushing, trying to get, you know, chancing it at the cinema. I might get in.
Well, it's like when you're trying to get into a nightclub when you're 16. It's like, should we try? And your entire night rests on whether or not you can get past the door.
And I remember Dad was really up for seeing it, and I remember trying to go to see it with Dad, and they were like, "Oh no, how old's your son?" And they wouldn't let me in, and we ended up having to go see something else, probably I think Lion King or something,
which is tense for a whole different number of reasons.
But yeah, I remember Dad, because it had, you know, it created so much buzz. It was very much a movie of the moment. You know, everyone was talking about how tense it was, how brilliant. You know, it was a lightning in a bottle sort of zeitgeist movie that summer. And I remember I eventually did get to see it, obviously on VHS, probably like, you know, opening weekend, reserved it at Gojo Video. But I totally forgot. I used to have the poster on my wall of Keanu Reeves' face with a bus on fire.
Yeah, and a bus leaping
on fire. Spoiler. Don't remember the bus being on fire.
No.
Everything was on fire in the poster. It made it more exciting.
Yeah.
This was that sort of first cool big action film that I remember, you know, as I was approaching my teenage years.
Yeah, and obviously I make the joke about, you know, is this feels so much like a Michael Bay film, but I'm talking about the fact that it's set in California, the fact that there's that music, there's that tense building, there's those set pieces, there's explosions, there's gunplay.
Well, it is a high concept script, you know, that story idea of that, excuse the pun, that elevator pitch of there's a bomb on a bus, and if it goes under 50 miles an hour, it's going to explode. That's the hook.
So who's going to star in this? Yeah, you can see it being
and pitched. Effectively it is, you know, Die Hard on a bus as well.
Yeah, and I kind of felt that going back to it this time that there was a part of me that was thinking, I was obsessed with this film and I loved this film, but you know, I didn't understand the term when I was growing up, like popcorn movie. But I would say that this very much is this, because when you get to the end of it, you're like, wow, that really just was about a bus with a bomb on it. There's not a lot to it, but it's an enjoying ride.
Well, as you're saying about Our Sister Sophia, it had everything. It had Keanu Reeves for the girls, it had Sandra Bullock for the guys. You know, it had comedy, and it had action. It had, you know, it was, you know,
had Dennis Hopper for people who remember him from earlier on in his career. So
it was a big crowd pleaser.
Fun for all the family.
but let's, enough of talking about the bus. We have to get to that moment. So there's the first bus explosion. So Keanu Reeves knows everybody at the coffee shop.
It's a man about town.
He knows that friendly bus driver. Even though he doesn't get the bus, he has the banter with the bus driver.
Yeah.
Whose bus then explodes.
Yeah, right in front of him on time.
And it's a good explosion.
Yeah.
It's a great shot.
Physical.
The way he walks out the coffee shop and the camera pans around him in his car.
Yeah.
And just lingers on the bus, and then suddenly kablooey.
Yeah, it's a great physical explosion.
Oh, it's a great explosion. But I was watching this with my wife, and she said, you know, poking holes in believability, she's like, would you answer that phone that randomly starts ringing next to the exploding bus? Would that be the least of your worries?
You're like, come on, you didn't live in the 90s. Pay phones, if one was ringing,
you had to answer it.
Because it might be a bomber.
It might be a bad bomber.
Or it might just be needed to drive the plot along.
That is true.
And this will come up again later on in the show. We didn't have mobile phones. What a wonderful time. There was one mobile phone.
The one mobile phone. They had to pass around. Car phones.
That's why you had a modular cellular telephone.
Indeed. So Dennis Hopper, the Mad Bomber, outlines the rules of the game. You know, the bus is going to blow up once it reaches 50. It has to stay above 50. So Jack has to get on the bus.
Yeah, and that's not in the rules, but it's allowed. And I think that's when we because if I remember rightly, the first scene, it is kind of tense, sort of slow music, but it's when he starts chasing the bus in LA traffic that we get the tense chase music.
Because he's trying to get to it before it reaches 50.
Yeah.
And obviously he has to commandeer a car.
Yeah, and the only way, hey man,
Toon Man.
Yeah, I love. There's quite a few what I'd say very much jokes of the time going on in terms of his personalised plate and his love of his car. Nice to see a British car in an American film.
Yeah.
Even if it gets its door ripped off.
Your car insured? Yeah, why?
But you also see some pretty neat driving skills, some cool stunts. He does the slipstream.
Yeah.
I remember me and my boy mates as to, do you remember when he does the slipstream where he builds up the speed and that's also explained to us by Tom Cruise in Days of Thunder.
Yeah.
And it's not like you're ever going to put it to use in real life, but it's still a cool thing.
Apparently those highway scenes with all the cars were apparently a nightmare to film because all the cars had to return to their starting mark. Can you imagine when you're filming on a freeway?
Yeah, because you can tell, as I was saying before, he does a lot of his own stunts, but you can tell that what they actually did was it was a normal day of traffic and they just had 3 lanes. So all the other cars that are going are usual traffic, but they've got their 3 lanes, and then obviously all of those are stunt drivers.
So Jack gets on the bus, and it's full of lots of stereotypes. You've got obviously we're introduced to, before he gets on the bus, you get Sandra Bullock's character Annie. You get who I'm calling, I don't know, I can't remember. I think she's called Helen, but I'm calling her the crazy cat lady.
Yeah.
I've got to get out of here.
Who's from Donnie Darko?
Yes. Well,
Fear and love.
And sometimes I question your dedication to sparkle motion.
Yeah. But she's great.
You've got the Mexican gangbanger. You've also got the Mexican or Indian builder.
Yeah.
Ortiz.
Yeah, Ortiz. Yeah. There's a lot of stereotypes.
You've got the guy from Ferris Bueller's as the wacky tourist.
Yeah, and that's the point I made about, we talked about how the omnipresence of smartphones. When this is all going on, he's trying to get on the bus, there's only one guy with a camera who's filming, and it's because he's a tourist. Whereas if this was happening today, everyone would have their phones out recording, his attempt to get on, and that also would involve the plot, which we'll get to, about how the fact that they think it's the media and he's got a camera on the bus, but like today it would just be like, it could be so many other people's cameras,
exactly. There'd be no way to stop, get the press out of here.
Yeah.
But apparently that role of the tourist, the actor's name from Cameron from Ferris Bueller, he's called Alan Ruck. He was originally written as an abrasive lawyer, and he gets his comeuppance in an unexpected death scene, but Whedon rewrote it as sympathetic but dull-witted tourist, and to be fair, he does get some great laughs throughout the film.
Once again, nice bit of comic relief.
Yeah,
to help with the tension.
To easing the tension, baby.
So Jack's on the bus. And the driver...
Well, Sam,
I think we're getting ready for another reference to an access panel.
So, Sam, the bus driver, gets shot
by the
gangbanger. Originally, in the script, I think he was going to have a heart attack, but I think again it adds that tension of him getting shot, and then so Sandra Bullock has to take over the driving, and he gets. This is just a bit of a joke between Charlie and I, but we always laugh at the line. Access panel.
When great acting.
When Jack's looking for the bomb.
Did you say bomb?
Bomb. But yeah, there's some great dialogue. We talked about Stevens, the tourist, when he's dictating to Harry on the phone when Keanu Reeves is looking at.
Oh darn!
Yeah, and a very Die Hard-esque line of enough C4 to put a hole in the earth.
Yeah.
There's so many great gags in this. Apparently, I was reading about the pram full of cans.
Yeah.
Apparently, in the test screening, there was just an audible gasp because people did think it was
Save my baby.
It's very. It's very misdirectional because she
doesn't look like the type of person who would have a pram full of cans.
Exactly, she doesn't look like, and it's usually a shopping trolley, and she doesn't look that homeless. So yeah, that's a great twist. It's building that tension, but then there's the comic relief. So the tension's getting higher. The cat lady's getting crazier.
Yeah. Got to get off the bus. I've got to get a hold of yourself. She needs a slap. Like an airplane type slap.
Yeah. And I love the bit where where Jack has to tell the mad bomber that they have to get the driver off because he's been shot. Jack, now you haven't been shooting the passengers, have you?
Yeah, some good comedy there.
Cat lady's getting crazier, so they're trying to get Sam off the bus. What about the rest of us? I mean, God wants that woman to die.
Yeah, you kind of like, oh well. And that, once again, it's another kind of set piece. You know, it's the fact this is raising the stakes even further. No, he can see everything. That damn media choppers. Get them out of here.
Get them out of here. So yes, they lose the crazy cat lady. She goes under the bus and they get onto the I-105 freeway, which actually in real life had been, was a freeway that had been completed and wasn't open to the public. So that's why they were able to work with that freeway.
And getting back to the dodgy accent, let's have a quick explanation of what the problem is on that freeway.
This freeway isn't finished!
What are you talking about?
The aerial unit got it about 3 miles ahead. There's a section missing.
So, I love that guy. I don't know what happens to his accent. He probably is American, but it goes all weird. But enough about that. We're coming to... I know, so we've got the first sort of the tight corner to get on to this freeway.
Yeah.
Which is a nice bit of, you know the whole idea. Everyone get
physics,
on
mechanics.
Yeah, get on the side of the bus. I really did not think we were going to make that turn. And then we come to, I think, my only criticism of this film, which is the bus jump.
I mean, obviously the bus jump, is the money shot for the film. As I say, it was on the poster. And it wasn't actually in the original script. De Bont came up with it when he was driving around and noticed actually there was a section of the freeway that was missing.
Yeah, but I don't know. Just looking back, it's the way it launches. It's the way it takes off, and you think about maybe if there's a gap,
if they'd made the gap a bit smaller, because is it like 60 foot,
something like that? Yeah, but
which is 20 meters.
Yeah, or if one of the cop cars gets ahead and gives them something to launch off and said, we've put a trailer there, something like that. Yeah. We've built
the ramp. Let's launch it.
Let's launch off this ramp. But yeah, it's just when you watch it and there's just this like leap of it's like, what happened? What?
Yeah,
suspend disbelief for 1 second.
I mean, to be fair, it's. I love that bit where they find out the track's missing and Matt goes, "You're fired. Everyone's fired." But yeah, the editing, the music really sell it in, even though the jump, as you say, is completely ridiculous.
And the fact that the bus is still completely roadworthy after jumping.
It wobbles around a bit.
Yeah, but that's when I'm like, when I was rewatching this recently, I'm like, man, I miss the 90s. We should start a podcast. But no, I was like, this is such a Michael Bay film. Just that entire scene, it was like, because you've got the light that he likes to shoot in, it's very, smoggy orange.
Well, it's that LA haze, isn't it?
It gives us such lovely sunsets. So yeah, but it just feels so much like like Bayhem.
Yeah.
It's very much what's going to happen next.
Well, apparently 10 buses were used in the making of the film, so they built a special bus for the bus jump scene.
None of them were harmed.
So yeah, the bus was modified so it could reach 70 miles an hour, had shock absorbers, the driver's seat was moved back so in case anything went wrong and the driver wasn't ejected from the bus. So yeah, even though it's a ridiculous stunt, they obviously put a lot of thought into it.
But it's a bold stunt and it really builds intention, and this film is full of great stunts. We always bang on about this on our podcast, but physical stunts, physical effects, no CGI, much more believable.
Yeah. Then they make the decision, or Keanu makes the great decision to do circles around the airport.
Yeah, smart guy, Jack.
Smart, but in early drafts of the script, it was actually supposed to be circling around the Dodgers Stadium because obviously stadiums, it's just going around in circles, but they couldn't get the rights to film at the stadium, so they changed it to the airport.
Yeah.
But yeah, again, you've got some more great lines from the tourist. We're at the airport. I've already been to the airport.
And then we do see some good stunts from Keanu because going underneath the bus, because he obviously did that. I don't know when he's actually under the bus. I think it's a stuntman, but you do see him clearly go.
There's a shot through the front of the bus, and you see him going underneath,
and you can tell that they're going at speed.
Yeah,
and you can tell by the way that
minimum speed.
That would be a good name for a movie. But you can see by the way that his face moves that it hasn't been sped up at all.
Yeah,
so it's not like he's like doing the old James Bond trick of nobody move and we'll speed everything up. What's it called? Cranking.
Cranking, yeah. Speed ramping.
Speed ramping, yeah. So there's none of that going on. See, like, that is a bold move from him. So he actually did go under the bus, which is a cool stunt.
So he goes to defuse the bus.
Gives himself another challenge.
Gives himself another challenge by taking... we failed to mention the bit by going into the airport, he loses one of the tyres.
Yeah.
And I'm amazed how long they managed to drive around with one tyre out.
Yeah, because you start... How many wheels does that bus have?
Exactly. But yeah, he manages to secure himself and then impale a screwdriver through the fuel tank.
So now we have added tension. He also discovers the cheap gold watch, which then unfortunately sends Harry on a chase. Lovely Harry. The lovable character.
Harry, though I do question, would they really let a man with, who'd been shot in the leg, who's clearly injured, on a mission?
Yeah.
But he needs to get his guy. And yeah, unfortunately, the lovely Harry goes kablooey.
Yeah, and so Harry dies, but it's Hopper who calls. That's who he finds out from.
Yes, and which requires some very emotional acting from Keanu. And I've got a great quote here from Jan de Bont. I think had to push Keanu Reeves to react emotionally more than he was willing to do in scenes, because Keanu has one kind of laid back stoner mode, doesn't he?
Yeah.
But yeah, I think there was a few times where Jan de Bont was like, no, we need to see a bit more emotional range.
Well, yeah, because I think that's what works well in the recent John Wick films, in that, it's all about, he's a grieving man, but he's not showing, like, he's a very stoic, but that's why it works well in John Wick, because he's lost everything, even his dog.
Yeah.
But he's still very, very fixed, very strong.
Well, yeah, that's it. Here's the line. Apparently, according to de Bont, Reeves wasn't used to playing a role requiring such extreme reactions.
Yeah, we need you to be pathetic. It's like, so what am I going to do? Like, shout?
But yeah, that's, it is a great moment where he realizes that he's lost Harry and he loses it on the bus. So we're at the airport. Bit of another sort of link to Die Hard. So they manage to get everyone off the bus. They loop the video. The bus drives into a plane being towed.
A plane full of C4.
full of gasoline, explosive material, and fireworks.
Yeah, and there's that other thing, because it's never really explained that plane is empty. You're just made to assume
it is. But on the side of that plane, it's Pacific Courier Freight, and
that's what's on the truck in Die Hard.
Exactly, Joe. Exactly.
Right.
So
I did not know that.
So shared universe. So yeah, that is an in-joke by the production designer, because obviously de Bont worked on Die Hard.
So I felt, especially at this part of the film, that Sandra Bullock's showing her acting chops. She's carrying
showing her legs.
Yeah, she's her great legs. So she's carrying it along. She's showing that she's more than a damsel in distress.
She's carrying Keanu's dramatic weight as well.
Yeah, she's giving him something to work off. Also, what adds to the tension throughout this film is people screaming at each other to hurry the fuck up.
Yeah,
there's a lot of that. It's like, come on! Gotta get these people off this bus, Jack.
So they're off the bus. The bus has exploded, but the fun hasn't stopped. So Hopper wants his money.
Yeah, he doesn't realize they've done a switcheroo. So yeah, I just remember it's one of those things about a film like this of tension. When you go back to it, and I think there's a certain element of Air Force One, is that because you know how the film ends. The first time, the end of this film works perfectly. So the first time you see Speed, it's like, what's going to happen? How are they going to get him? But when you know how it's going to fall out, I just feel like once they get off the bus, it just feels a bit baggy at the end. It's like, because you know how it's going to pan out. But that's why I go back to my original point of how, for this film's real impact was the first time you see it as a popcorn movie.
Yeah, because of that tension.
Yeah, and then so once the bus has exploded and they're off and everyone's safe, it's about they got to catch the bad guy, and because they're obviously gonna catch him, it's all about how. And once you know how, as I say, it loses a bit of its loses a bit of this feel, but more great acting from Hopper, and believable stakes, because you would put Keanu Reeves against Dennis Hopper, you're like, well, that's going to be a very short fight.
Yeah.
It's like, okay, so how do we involve Sandra Bullock? Yeah, that sort of thing.
And let's have it on top of a train. Yeah. But apparently, when the film ran out of money before the subway stuff was shot, so when it was first previewed for an audience, they were just shown animated storyboards, but obviously by the test reactions from the audiences, the studio found more money.
We need bigger explosions.
So yeah, I mean, there's again they used a real part of the Los Angeles Metro line, obviously for the stuff when Hopper and Reeves are on top of the train was done in a studio. But yeah, again, some more great lines from Hopper. Poor people are crazy, Jack. I'm eccentric.
Yeah, and also the way that he's interacting with Sandra Bullock, I like that. It's like, it is the crazy, not stupid. My money! until he realizes his money, he goes full psycho. Yeah, and he's got a cool MP5, a nice chrome.
You kitted out.
Yeah, it's serious bling though. It's like a mod on a modern day like PlayStation game. It's like, would you on GTA? You've unlocked a chrome MP5 machine gun.
And whilst they did get, Joss Whedon to rework the script, they still have a very James Bond-esque last line. What happened to him? Roger pops up on the subway. He lost his head, Sandra.
Yeah, because even when he said, yeah, well, I'm taller.
Yeah.
So, yeah, they've obviously left in some one-liners.
Yeah. But the one point I've made is anything in LA finished? The subway track's not finished. The freeway's not finished.
I think that's very much them saying, come on, we've pushed the limit. There's been so much tension. It's like build. So how's it going to end? Is he just going to stop the train? Nah. Let's have it so that the train can't be stopped.
The bus couldn't be stopped. The train can't be stopped. It's all about speed.
Yeah.
But they happily ever after, and the film just I forgot, like, the film just ends with them on the street just passionately embracing, and that's it.
Well, yeah, because nobody knew what was to come. What the amazing sequel that we were going to be spoiled with.
Can I shock you?
Yeah.
I haven't seen the second one. Have you?
No. I think I've seen bits of it, because it was one of those films, it was on Sky when we had Sky.
Yeah.
And it was like, it got panned so much. The fact it didn't have Keanu Reeves, and we didn't. And
the fact it's about a cruise liner that can't go more than 20 miles an hour, I think.
Yeah, about a cruise liner that's all it's going to do. It's like, where's the tension? But yeah, I think I've watched bits of it, but I've never watched that film like start to finish.
Yeah.
I think when it was on Sky, I like watched the bit where it crashes, and I was like, meh.
Yeah.
So yeah,
it's so panned. I've never been tempted. Even when I was looking to, obviously I thought I owned this on DVD, but I may have sold it off or lost it. So
I think I've got your copy on DVD.
Son of a. But I ended up just getting a digital copy. But then when I was searching for it, it was like, would you like to get the double pack? It was like, no, thank you.
It's cheaper. No, still no, thank you.
I'll pay more money.
I just feel a bit sorry for Sandra Bullock in terms of, I think that stilted her career for a while. I mean, obviously she's back on our screens with Bird Box. She's proven, Gravity, obviously.
Yeah, well, that's it. You think she's had an amazing career.
Yeah. In terms of who she's worked with in the film, she's been
and real range as well. She's still doing mixing those dramatic comedies with as you say, like Bird Box and Gravity. She's done some great stuff. But speaking of actors, should we release
what's that? It's Jeff and Selena here, George.
Your scientists were so preoccupied with whether or not they could, they didn't stop to think if they should.
So, coulda, woulda, shoulda is when basically George, due to his knowledge, gives us a bit of a rundown on other actors that were considered but did not get the part.
So, being a big Hollywood-esque, Die Hard-esque film, this obviously the studio went
through. Did the usual rounds, did it?
Of pulling out a who's male in Hollywood, basically. But apparently the people that were offered the role of Jack and turned it down, we have Stephen Baldwin, not even Billy Baldwin, not even Alec Baldwin. They reached out to Stephen Baldwin.
They just kept on going through the Rolodex.
Baldwin.
Get me a Baldwin.
Just which one answers the phone first? Offered it to Tom Cruise.
Interesting.
Apparently Tom Hanks was discussed, which I can't see.
Yeah, I think he would have been at the juncture in his career. He's like, look, guys, I'm not doing action.
Yeah,
I'm not doing that type of action.
And interestingly, because of the success of White Men Can't Jump, both Wesley Snipes and Woody Harrelson were offered it. But then they would go on to do the very similar and
Passenger 57.
No less inferior Money Train.
God, yeah, I remember when we watched that, and that was
I think watched that on a plane, didn't we?
It was when we were going to the US.
States, yeah,
and I remember us both feeling shortchanged by the end of it.
Pun intended. So yeah, they were the main people that were offered it before Keanu Reeves. Apparently loads of actresses were considered for the role of Annie. Apparently even Graham Yost's first pick, the writer's first pick, was Ellen DeGeneres. I'm Ellen.
Wisecracking her way to oblivion.
Yeah, and he was just like, I don't know, I just thought she would have been really good at the time. And apparently a pre-stardom Halle Berry turned down the role, because at the time the role of Annie was going to be, I think, a paramedic, so that's why she was really good at driving.
Right.
But Halle Berry said, it wouldn't have done for me what it did for Sandra Bullock. I would have just been the black bus driver.
Yeah.
So, okay. And interestingly, for the role of Howard Payne, the Mad Bomber, Jack and Bobby De Niro were both considered.
Because there is a certain element of Jack.
Yes.
Jack, in some of his responses, is like, especially the line about, you can't be going shooting people now. It's very Joker-esque.
Yeah, well, that's it. It's you can definitely see Nicholson and the De Niro. Why are they messing with me?
Yeah. Why don't they understand?
Yeah.
And yeah, you could, and there are elements of the, in the later films of, say, The Dark Knight, where there's a bomb on two boats, and you've got Batman trying to deal with the Joker. You could see this being like, say, a comic of Batman, that the Joker has actually put a bomb on a bus, because it's exactly the type of thing that
playfulness,
he would do. Yeah, and it's recent
and
enough.
Chaos.
Yeah, and Jack would have been, just as big a deal then.
So that leads us to our new recurring feature.
Suspicious spin-offs.
So yeah, I'm kind of, obviously we've talked about the terrible sequel that happened on a cruise ship, and that obviously didn't work. But so I'm not really sure if we could have any spin-offs with Jack Traven. But I think I would like to see more of Mac, Joe Morton's character.
Yeah.
Because as you said, he's great fun. Just see more of the SWAT team at work.
Yeah, I'd like to, I think there's the obvious prequels. So like, how did Dennis Hopper lose his thumb? And I'd like the idea of Mac or Jack Traven being involved in that, something like that. There's also, I think, which I'm just going to throw at you now. Can you think of what would have been a better sequel than Cruise Control?
Well, I mean, obviously there's if we think of Die Hard on a ... you've had Boat in Under Siege, but you had Under Siege 2, which was on a train.
Yeah.
So that could have worked, but I think that just would have been too much of a, let's just do the Die Hard thing of, where can we take that same situation and put it in another environment?
I like the idea of the
golf buggy.
Of them just flipping it so it's a train that's not allowed to go any speed at all, and so what it creates is just a backlog of really angry commuters.
We could do it in the southwest of England. People will love it.
We're shutting down the tube for 50 minutes.
I mean,
pandemonium ensues.
Obviously, the one thing that I haven't touched on is the best spin-off that does actually exist is the Father Ted episode where Dougal is on the milk float that can't go over 5 miles an hour.
There you have it.
Yeah, for you guys, if anyone hasn't seen it, please.
Father Ted, one of the funniest comedies
search
ever.
out the Father Ted Speed. I think it's called Speed 3.
Yeah, the tribute.
But yes, it's brilliant, especially with the sort of get out the way, and there's like, oh no, Dougal, someone's left boxes on the road. Get out the way.
At 5 miles an hour. Yeah. Yeah.
So yes, I think for me that is my favourite spin-off for Full Speed.
Yeah, so the only other thing to suggest is there's that speech at the beginning where Harry's saying to him, luck will get you so far before it gets you killed. It's like, Harry, why are you so down? You look like such a nice guy. Like, as you say, Harry and Mac McMahon. But it sounds like he's called Mac McMac.
Mac McMac.
Yeah, so there could have been, exploits of the SWAT team.
But yeah, I think, we've talked about this. The reason we've picked this film, it's its 25th anniversary this year, but also we are going to be graced with the release of John Wick 3 is coming out very soon, and I think it has, this film has, we've covered Point Break before, but this has done obviously wonders for Keanu Reeves' career in Hollywood.
Yeah, and we talked about it a lot in Point Break. It's like man crush. I would watch him in anything, and apart from Dracula.
I say.
But no, I think he's a great presence, and he's a great protagonist to have.
And he knows his range.
Yeah, and he excels in it. And I think that's why Quelle Surprise that George and I love John Wick, and that was such a pleasant surprise, the first one that came out. And yeah, who knows what they've done. I think it's also quite clever what they've done with those films, and I think he's had a big part of it. And in terms of the stunts that he's doing in his 50s, it's...
the man never, as you say,
he's a vampire.
He's a vampire.
He actually is a vampire. So yeah, I don't know if there's anything else you want to say about this. It was fun to go back and watch it, as I say.
Yeah, it's very much a typical 90s blockbuster. Mid-90s blockbuster. As you say, I think there is diminishing returns once, as you say, the outcome, but
because of the tension, where the tension's going to go.
Yeah, it's brilliantly done.
It does carry you along. Yeah. I think watching it again, going back, even though you know how it pans out, for me, you're carried along by all of the tension until the closing act.
I don't think I would revisit because of those tension and plot machinations. I don't think I'd probably watch it as often as, say, I'd watch something like other films around similar times, so like The Rock, other Bruckheimer type stuff, which has a bit more sort of repeat viewings.
Yeah, I think that's my only feeling about this film, is that it's not as rewatchable as some of the other Michael Bay films, which is not. This is obviously a Jean de Bont film, but yeah, no, it's been great to review, and we hope you have enjoyed our comments on this film. And if you haven't watched it in a while, it's worth a revisit.
Yeah, definitely. So as usual, it would if you enjoy these podcasts, it'd be great if you can leave us a review on iTunes, or share with your friends. That's important. Just spread the word.
And thank you very much to everybody who is sharing it, and we're getting some very nice reviews, some very nice comments on all of the social medias, and we are everywhere. You can listen to us via our blog. You don't need any software or apps for that. You can just hit play on
YouTube. I don't know why you'd want to do it, but we are on YouTube.
We're getting hundreds of people listening to it, and we don't do it. It just automatically goes to YouTube, so it's there. It's on obviously on Spotify. It's on Stitcher.
Wherever you get your podcasts.
Yeah, so it's out there. So we will see you next time. Next time we will be back with another film.
We've got some great films lined up. At this moment in time, I can't remember what they are, but some real gigs.
But I think we probably will be diving back in, after doing the 90s. We'll probably dive back into the
80s,
into the lovely, wonderful 80s.
I think I remembered what it is.
Yeah, do you want to tell me?
It is Kurt Russell.
Oh, is it Big Trouble in Little China?
It is.
Oh, excellent. Right, so there you go. This is a live show, and I think we've just demonstrated that. But looking forward to doing that. So we'll be back next time with Big Trouble in Little China.
Thank you for listening.
Yeah, I've been Charlie McGee.
I've been George McGee.
And we'll see you next time. Bye-bye.
I saw this in a movie about a bus that had to speed around the city, keeping its speed over 50. And if its speed dropped, it would explode. I think it was called The Bus That Couldn't Slow Down.